Hi everyone, so I would like to spend a bit of time talking about Boku No Hero Academia, or My Hero Academia as it's called in English. So this is a fairly new anime manga thing. The anime is in its second season, and I think it's about episode 36 in the second season right now, and the manga has been running for a while. It's the sort of superhero X-Men-y tale of a world where everybody has superpowers, or 80% of the population has superpowers, and you have this society built up where superheroes are basically civil servants, and they're registered with the government, and they get paid just like normal police officers would. And this boy who is born without superpowers is then taken in by the strongest superhero, All Might, and somehow given superpowers, and he then enrolls into Boku No Hero Academia, which is the best school apparently in Japan for superheroes, and the entire series is then about him becoming like the next greatest superhero on Earth. And like at first that's a very basic shonen concept. The shonen genre has a lot of tropes that like are very overused, and especially at this point with the popularity of series like Naruto, the whole high school kid underdog story has kind of been done so much that you'd forgive me that when I watched the first 3 or 4 episodes, I really didn't get into it. I was stunned by how popular this series was, because it felt like, okay, well, it's a well-made show, but it didn't feel all that interesting to me. But like, as I look deeper in the show, I noticed that it avoids a lot of problems that that a lot of this genre has. Like for example, a lot of shonen series has this problem with power creep, which, if you're not familiar with the concept of power creep, is basically the idea that the creator of a series keeps trying to one-up themselves. So, like in Dragon Ball, very famous example, you had Goku, who basically was not the strongest character, but an exceptionally strong character. And then by the time of Dragon Ball Z, all the strategy and all the fun ideas that were in Dragon Ball with the fights and the action scenes got turned into this numbers game of like,
Vegeta, what does the scouter say about his power level? It's over 9,000! What, 9,000? There's no way that can be right! Cut it!
Everybody has a power level, and whoever has the highest number is more powerful and will almost by default win. And that's such a shame, because like, when a shonen series starts out, and this happens to a lot of series, they can have these really cool tactical battles where the main character has to kind of figure out, like, how do I beat this opponent? How do I get over this opponent? And that's sort of put to the sidelines as most series progresses. However, Boku No Hero Academia kind of subverts this by introducing the power ceiling immediately. All Might is the strongest superhero on Earth. There is no one stronger than him. And that means, okay, we've seen All Might in action. That is as strong as the creator is allowing himself to show anyone be. And that is just like, that's an amazing idea, because, okay, instead of our character like having to fight increasingly stronger characters that for some reason just hasn't been introduced earlier, he is learning to come to terms with the world he lives in, and learning to use his powers and live in this world where everybody like is able to have some sort of superpower. Everybody is extraordinary in some way, but they use this term called plus ultra, which is like try and find a way beyond the extraordinary just by planning and tactics and that sort of thing, just by hard work. And that's a really good way of putting it. But of course, like, it still smells a little bit, even by episode 36 of the second season, that yeah, there is some tropes going on. There is like some. You do have like the one thing that annoys me, and I used to be a big Bleach fan, but they had to have like this silly little perverted character. But whereas Bleach like had him as a complete side character that is useless and will get like in trouble for what he does, the perverted side character in Boku No Hero Academia, yeah, also sort of breaks the fourth wall because he's not supposed to be there. In a way, he is clearly just there for the sake of making fan service jokes, and it's such a shame that a series that otherwise averts a lot of shit has this one character. And like every time he's on screen, I just groan, because it's like seeing your very intelligent friend just hang on to one very stupid opinion. Like, it's really a shame. So that's like the main issue I have with the series. A second issue I have with the series is the art style. And the art style is fine. It functions just fine. The art style is fine, but there's a problem with it. It's fine. Like, it looks way, way too standard. Even for the genre. Like, anime, of course, has a certain look. Manga and anime has a certain look. Has this thing with the big eyes and stuff. And the very, like, low detail drawings and such. But Boku no Hero Academia has the look of a series that was shipped out to sell toys, like the later seasons of Yu-Gi-Oh! Or the first season of Beyblade or something like that. It looks incredibly constructed. Like, it looks fake. It doesn't look like a genuine author sat down and drew this. It looks like this art style was focus tested, and it's such a shame because the story in itself is so good, but the character designs and the art style at times just blends in too much. Like, a lot of the characters, especially when they're just wearing their school uniforms, looks way too generic. They look like they could be in any show as background characters. A lot of the characters look like background characters. It's such a shame. Run-of-the-mill, honestly. The art style is incredibly run-of-the-mill. But it's functional. Like, it functions. It works. The show shines when it is able to bring out these characters that defy the art style. You have this character called All Might, who is like the secondary main character almost. And he has this great big generic Superman look, partnered with a different look that looks so out of place, is so cool and so weird. I'm really in love with this All Might character and his two designs and like just what he is, because he's just a great character, and it's cool because he is Superman. Like, power wise, he is Superman. He is super strong. he's super fast, and just like Golden Age Superman from 1940s, he can leap a lot. Like, he doesn't fly, he leaps. And he wears like the cape and the tights, and he is Superman. He is just a big, strong Superman stereotype. And you can see there's a little bit of like whoever does this series. I failed to look up his name before I had started this vlog. Whoever does this series is clearly a superhero fan, because shonen as a genre has roots in the superhero genre. Son Goku, the most famous example, is of course almost just beat by beat Superman. He came from a different planet, he grew up among humans, his home planet was destroyed, and he's super strong and can fly. This is Superman. Like, obviously Son Goku is not just Superman, he has his own identity as a character, and like, if Dragon Ball had just been Superman, it would just have been a parody, and it isn't. And so it feels like when All Might passes the torch, which he kinda does already in the first episode, so that's not really a spoiler, passes the torch to our main character, Deku, it is kind of like how the manga industry took over that sort of spot the superhero genre had for a while. Like, okay, right now they're coming back with the movies, the Marvel movies are doing very well, and so on. But there were a couple of years, like, my generation grew up with manga. Like, we grew up with superheroes, or we grew up with comic books, and with manga as our comic books. Son Goku and Naruto and Luffy and all these wonderful shonen heroes. But the generation before us was like superheroes, right? There were Batman and Superman and Spider-Man and Daredevil and all these cool characters. So yeah, manga just kind of took over that spot for a couple of years, and this in a meta way kind of shows this as well. And there's a later character called Stain, who is also quite obviously a commentary on the 90s period of superheroes, and like the dark, etchy nature that those had, down to the point where he actually looks like he could have been right along Spawn or a Savage Dragon or something. Like, he wouldn't have been out of place in Youngblood or something like that. Design-wise, like, obviously he's his own character. Again, he's his own character, but design-wise, he looks like he could have been released by Image Comics during the 90s and have fought Spawn or whatever. And All Might wouldn't have looked out of place in the 1940s alongside Superman and Captain Marvel and Captain America and stuff like that. And in the meantime, now you have the shonen hero Deku, who has a lot of the shonen tropes going on for him, and has this growth thing, and has the design of like the classic the classic shonen hero kind of getting the torch passed to him by the superhero genre, in my eyes at least. There's a lot of like really great characters on the show. Honestly, like, I kind of don't want to sum them up, but like the way they each of them they seem so generic when they're first introduced, and that's the interesting part about the show, is that all the characters seem super generic and super background character-ish. But once the show like gets into the meat, and honestly, you kind of have to give it a season. I kind of had to give it a season before I really got it, what they were trying to do here, because the first season of the show is so generic. If you've seen any shonen before, the first season will not surprise you in the slightest. I really think so. If you've seen Yu Yu Hakusho, maybe not Yu Yu Hakusho, but like any like Katekyo Hitman Reborn is a great example. It also has a very similar protagonist. Or Naruto is a great example as well. Like, if you've seen any shonen anime before, the first season of Boku no Hero will probably not impress you. But once you get to the end of season 1, you will be impressed. I'm pretty certain of that. Like, once you get to episode, 20? The first season stops at something like that. It stops at episode like 20 or 15 or something like that. Once you get there, you will like realize and actually put thought into it. You will like get it, because as soon as season 2 starts, it starts subverting all the shonen stereotypes. Really, it starts subverting like the tournament arc and the growth and what characters go through, and conflicts aren't resolved in one episode. Like, the main character doesn't give a heartfelt speech to a character and he immediately turns into a better person. Stuff like that doesn't happen in Boku no Hero Academia like it would in, say, Naruto, my favorite whipping boy. So that's like, that's what really caught my attention about it. And like, being a big like comic book history buff and comic book fan, this shonen also tickled that side of my interests. The only real improvements I could see is, first off, get rid of that terrible comic relief character, because he is only holding the series back. And it really is like, it's like a bad habit. It's like smoking. Like, drop him, get him away. It's like dropping smoking or dropping drinking or something like that. Get him out of there. Force him into the background. Only acknowledge him when you have to. Only draw him in the backgrounds in classroom scenes or something like that. Get rid of him. Don't use him. And I actually heard that most people feel that way about him, so I'm not like, get rid of him. It's like a smoking habit. Just get rid of him. It's such a shame to see a character like that. Second off, the art style really needs to take more chances. Thankfully, some of the character designs does in the second season, but in the first season, it looks incredibly generic. A lot of the shots look like I could put them in any series whatsoever, and it would just look, and it wouldn't look out of place. A lot of the characters look like they wouldn't look out of place in, say, Beelzebub or something like that. They wouldn't look out of place as background characters in Yu-Gi-Oh! Or something. And it's such a shame. And I really hope that as the series goes on, characters will continue to like wear their superhero uniforms more and stop looking generic. And more new characters will be introduced that look interesting and like recognizable. There's a place for background characters, but your main characters should not look like background characters. Your main characters should not look like the background characters of another show, because even if that was part of your message, you're not conveying it very well. They don't even, like, the message of the show, so to speak, doesn't even seem to convey that these are completely ordinary kids. We're meant to consider them special. Please make them look special. But yeah, besides the show not being very interesting visually, plot-wise, it is very well made. Animation-wise, it is also pretty good. And it certainly, like, it certainly does a lot of interesting things. A lot of interpersonal relationships between the characters feel very real. A lot of the characters' backstories feels very real. There's one of the characters that is in an abusive relationship with his father, and it actually feels real because his home life is just completely wrecked, and it's not just dealt with from one episode to the next. Like, it's not just something like, oh, my father treats me better now, or my family life is all better now, or anything. Like, it is like a continued process, and I'm really excited to see where this goes, especially for that character. Anyway, that was as spoiler-free as I could go. Give it a chance if you've not seen Shonen before. Obviously, like, you're not really gonna see the tropes anyway, but it's free to watch on Crunchyroll, as far as I know, with ads, unfortunately. But hey, that's the burden to bear, I guess. And I hope you enjoyed this ramble on Boku No Hero Academia and how I see it compared to other shonen series. I'll see you guys in another video. Bye!